So I've been seeing a lot lately the term power creep in Zenless Zone Zero, the discussion of power creep, I should say, around the community for Zenless Zone Zero, and more specifically in regards to EO's latest video in regards to power creep, where he goes on to state that it's not what you think it is. And I watched the video, I completely understand where he's coming from, and I believe he's right, but also wrong at the same time. So I wanted to go ahead and explain that, as well as give my own take on power creep in Zenless Zone Zero, because I think it is a nuanced discussion that I want to have with you guys, and I think it would be for a fun video to go ahead and drop. So let me know your thoughts and opinions on the topic, if you think there is power creep in Zenless Zone Zero, how you define power creep, and just your overall thoughts on it as a whole. Now, with that being said, there's a lot to unpack here, and really quickly before we do start, I want to give a massive shout out to EO. I've had some interactions with him. He's a really cool content creator. I think he makes fantastic guides and videos, and I think he offers a lot to the community in regards to providing his thoughts on certain things and giving a lot of insight and in-depth analysis when it comes to characters and how you play them. And that's where he's right when it comes to power creep. Once again, we'll get more into that here in just a second. Now, when it comes to Zenless Zone Zero in particular, there is power creep, but for me personally, I never found power creep to be necessarily a bad thing in of itself. And what I mean by that is that power creep leads to more in-depth characters, it leads to more fun gameplay, it leads to things being fresh all the time, and it leads to pulling for a specific thing. It makes pulling worth doing in a game if you have a character that is naturally stronger than the previous character. And I think power creep is a necessity within these games that are live service, that are always updating, that are providing new characters for the same element, for the same genre or position. They need to be better than the one before or previously, or what would be the reason for pulling them. So for me personally, I always think power creep is a good thing, as long as it's not egregious and as long as it's not absurd, right? There is power creep and then there's absurd power creep. And for me, defining power creep is just simply you have a character that is better than its previous version. So a prime example is Miyabi being an ice DPS character is obviously far and away better than Evelyn, who's an ice DPS character. So that power creep is a natural thing, but I don't necessarily find that to be a bad thing, because how many new players join the game for Miyabi specifically? And how many people enjoy playing Miyabi specifically? That is a good thing, right? And it keeps the game fresh, and a lot of people have fun with Miyabi because she's strong, because she's fun to play, because she's easy to pick up and use. That is a really good thing for the game, whereas Evelyn is not that type of playstyle. She's not as strong as Miyabi, she's not as easy to use. She's, you know, arguably, fun is subjective, so for some she might be as fun, but for others maybe not. But objectively speaking, Miyabi is just stronger in just about every facet, so that's natural power creep, right? We can go to even the most recent release of Evelyn, where she is just a natural upgrade to Soldier 11, and that's a natural power creep. She's stronger, she's fun to use, funner to use in my opinion, and she just has a better kit overall, right? Just in general. So that is a natural power creep. So power creep to me is a good thing. Now, going back to speaking about what EO was talking about, where he's right, but he's also wrong, in my opinion. Now, where he's right, we'll go ahead and start with that first. So EO was talking about power creep not being what you think it is. And for him, power creep, at least this is what I got from his video. And EO, if you watch this video, you can correct me in the comments down below if I am misunderstanding your interpretation or misrepresenting you. But it seemed as if he was speaking about power creep not naturally being the character itself and how strong they are, but more so your skill with said character and whether or not you're willing to invest the resources and the time to understand the character's kit, as well as to be able to optimize their gameplay. If you are not willing to do that, then there's not real power creep. The power creep is only that you're not willing to understand, take the time to fully unlock the potential of the character and invest the resources into not only the character themselves, but also the team that you can put around them, right? And that was my understanding of how he interprets power creep, and how he's saying it's not what you think it is. It's not that characters are absurdly stronger than others. It's more so that your skill level with said character may not be as refined as it may be with others, or may not be as refined as other players are with that said character, meaning that other characters, or not other characters, excuse me, other players are more skillful with the same character than you are. You just need to invest the time into getting as skillful as they do in terms of canceling animations, understanding basic attack animations, understanding when to EX special, understanding when to switch out, switch in, do ultimates, things of that nature, right? And from that standpoint, to a degree, I completely agree with him, right? I completely agree that in Zenless Zone Zero's case, and this is with a lot of action games in general, where it's hack and slash or it's more skill based like Zenless Zone Zero is, whether you believe it or not, Zenless Zone Zero is a skill based game. You just have to be willing to figure that out for yourself and unlock that skill based part of it, because you can certainly button mash, and I've said this before, you can button mash and you can get through the majority of the content, but you're not going to be unlocking the full potential of characters unless you really invest into learning the character. Now, with skill-based games, the skill with the character and the time you invest into them, as well as the resources, is what unlocks their potential. And so that part I agree with him in that aspect. In terms of power creep can be mitigated with your skill level with the character, and he used the example of Evelyn a lot, where if you get really skillful with Evelyn, you understand how she plays, then she is equivalent or on par with a lot of these newer characters. You just have to, you know, invest the time. I agree to a certain degree. Once again, that all makes sense to me. Now, where I disagree is where he just seems to think that because that point exists, it makes what I've said earlier about power creep null and void, meaning that naturally characters are stronger. And that just simply is not the case. The characters in the game that have released recently, more specifically Miyabi and Evelyn, as I think they're the most extreme cases at the moment, are just far and away better. Objectively, they just are. You can give my 6-year-old Miyabi to play and he won't know anything about the game and perform on par with somebody that has an Ellen like M6 who's pretty decent at the game, right? It's just, that is how the game is right now, and that's how strong Miyabi is right now. But it goes the same for Evelyn. Now, Evelyn's a little more skill based in my opinion. You have to really know what you're doing and pay attention a little bit more. She doesn't have as many iframes, but it's almost essentially the same thing. She is a direct upgrade to Soldier 11. She is stronger, far and away stronger in my opinion, than Soldier 11. And she is just a better character overall, just objectively. It's simply true. So just because you are more skillful with the character and you understand the character more in depth, that doesn't make a character that is just naturally stronger not naturally stronger. It simply is the case. And in a prime example that I want to use is that you can go ahead and sweat with Ellen. You can do all the cancel animations, you can do all the you know, in-depth gameplay with her as much as you want, and you will get an equivalent score to somebody that uses Miyabi like mediocre. And that's just simply because of Miyabi's kit, how strong Miyabi is, and that's with like similar investments and things of that nature. And that's with Ellen, like with some mindscapes unlocked. If it's an M0 Ellen, M0 S0 Ellen versus an M0 S0 Miyabi, and they're both the same skill level and they have both similar investments, Miyabi's simply just going to outperform. And it's not a bad thing. That is, you know, in my opinion, a good thing. It's just natural that you're gonna have a stronger character. So once again, as long as it's not like egregious and absurd, Miyabi's a special case because she's a void hunter. She's supposed to be that, so she kind of gets a pass. Evelyn is not as absurd as Miyabi is, so it kind of, you know, it makes sense to me. So anyways, I hope this video makes sense. There is natural power creep in Zenless Zone Zero, but it is mitigated by your skill, and that's where I agree with EO. It is mitigated by your skill in this game, whereas in other games like Honkai Star Rail, you can't do that because Honkai Star Rail is a turn-based game. There's really not much skill that you can express in that game. It's turn-based. You have your skill, you have your ultimate, you have your basic attack. You just have to know the character's kit, the enemy, what they're doing, and you just need to make sure you're doing your rotations correctly, right? Other than that, there is no dodge, there is no counter, there is no, you know, canceling animations like there is in Zenless Zone Zero, and even weathering waves. You don't have all of that in a turn-based game. So Honkai Star Rail's power creep is going to be far more noticeable and egregious, and that's why people complain, and that's why they have to do HP inflation, because they don't know what else to do for these characters, where in Zenless Zone Zero, that's not the case, right? You can be very solid, and every character in this game can clear the content if you invest into them enough. Not only resources, but your time as well. Right, we've seen that player that took Billy to the highest floor in the tower. That's something that you would not be able to do in Honkai Star Rail. You wouldn't be able to take a mediocre character equivalent to Billy in Honkai Star Rail and be able to clear the hardest content. It's just not possible. And the reason why they can do that is because of skill. They are able to play Billy to a very high level to where they can get away with his mediocre kit, right? They circumvent that with their skill, and that's what EO is getting at, in my opinion. I believe that's what he was trying to elaborate on. But once again, that doesn't make the other point of characters just naturally being stronger null and void, and naturally power creeping the 1.0 characters null and void. That still exists, that's still there. But he is right in terms of skill, right? You do have to have skill, you do have to be able to dodge and things of that nature, and be able to play the character at a high degree to be able to mitigate that type of power creep. So when people say that Ellen is unusable, and I think this is another point he was getting at, people were saying Ellen is now unusable because Miyabi's out. That is just completely untrue. Ellen still performs very well. Soldier 11 performs very well. Zhu Yuan performs very well. All these older characters can still clear the hardest content in the game. Even A ranks are clearing Shiyu defense. It may be a little more difficult, you may have to sweat a little bit more, you may have to put a little more time in, but you are able to do it if you're willing to do it, right? Uramasa is clearing content at a very high degree, at a very high skill level. If you're mediocre with Uramasa, you're going to feel that, right? You're going to feel that power creep. For example, when Double S Ambi comes out, Winter Soldier Ambi, when she comes out, if you are not strong with Uramasa in terms of gameplay, if you don't have his full potential unlocked, when Winter Soldier Ambi comes out, I know it's Silver Soldier, I like to call it Winter Soldier. When Winter Soldier Ambi comes out, you're going to be like, this is natural power creep because she is far stronger and far easier to use. Well, that's just simply not the case. Editing further here, I needed to go ahead and clarify, it is still power creep, Silver Soldier Ambi being stronger than Uramasa. That is true. What I was really trying to state there is that it's not as great as you think it's going to be, or as it is going to feel if you're not as strong with Uramasa as you are with other characters, or if you didn't invest the time to learn his gameplay like you may with other characters, or just in general. That is what I was really alluding to. I'm going to explain a little bit further. It is still power creep, just not what you think it is per se. Not the case. You're just not that good with Uramasa. You need to be able to get skillful with him, and you'll see that the difference is not that great, right? It's not as great as you think it is. But that is just my 2 cents. That is my little yap session for today. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts once again down in the comments below, and let me know if I missed out on anything, or if there's anything you want me to elaborate on. Let me know. Anyways, thank you guys for the support. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you all in the next one. Remember to stand out, be different, have fun, go further beyond in everything that you do. My name's Cody. Call me further. I'll see you all in the next one. Bye, guys.